privilege of working really closely with all the deans. And these three, and four, including Dr. Contreras, are truly, authentically, the most engaged with our community by many, many, many different measures. Their commitment is real to our students. Their commitment to increasing the diversity of their faculty is very real. And the partnerships that they've built with us in the Center for Educational Partnerships are real. In fact, when I looked at these questions just a little bit ago, I see when we're asking them about partnerships, I know off the top of my head, multiple partnerships with our community from each of these teams. It's not that they had to search hard to come up with one. So I'm really pleased to be here with them. And I was also told we are dispensing with very long and auspicious bios. So we're going to keep it to introducing them by name. Dean Ian Williamson from the Palmero School of Business. Dean John Gould from the School of Social Ecology. And Dean Tiffany Lopez from the Claire Trevor School of the Arts. Thank you for joining us late in the afternoon on a Saturday, again demonstrating their commitment. We just wanted to start, since our theme is partnerships, hearing you share, and we'll start at the end with Dean Williamson, sharing just one example of a successful partnership at your school involving our community.
Well, I would say, let me start with the fact that for the business school, partnerships are critical. We're a professional school. It is the way in which we're able to make sure that what we're doing actually resonates with our students, prepares them for the pathway that they're aspiring to have. And it also keeps us on our toes, right? So when we engage with the business community, it helps us understand the types of issues that they're facing. So it shapes our research, it shapes our curriculum, and obviously we hope that in doing these things that we're able to have a positive impact. One great example is actually with the Hispanic Chamber here in Orange County. And one of the cool things that I was really excited about is when I arrived here, it just so happened that the chamber was in a moment of transition. They were looking for a place to be. And so we were very eager to have them actually be on our campus. And so we reached out and we found a way for them to actually move their operations to be headquartered here at UCI over in our Verified Institute building. And my whole logic for why we stepped up as a business school to provide some financial support to make that happen was I wanted to have as many examples of Hispanic business leaders close to my students, because you do what you see. And if it's easier for them to engage with us and be involved in us, then that's just going to be something that shapes aspirations for our students, but also it gives our academics opportunity to access as well, to begin thinking about what is one of the most important, if not the fastest growing segment of the business economy in the United States. So that's one I'm particularly pleased of, and great that we have that relationship with them, and it continues to generate a lot of fruit for us.
Terrific. And what's really nice about that, we've been working, Center for Educational Partnerships have been working with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for a lot of years, but Dean Williamson making this investment and getting them physically located on the campus has led to all sorts of collaborations. It's not just that they're physically there, it's that they're now more engaged and we're more engaged in their organization, bringing more young students from their Hispanic Youth Leadership Conference to UCI. Anyway, it's been a great collaboration. I think we should shift that a little bit then and not just dive right into a successful partnership. I think it would be great for folks to hear Dean Gould, you starting just kind of with a frame about how you approach partnership, how it connects to your vision for leadership, your vision for the school. I think there's something really important there.
Thank you. And by the way, thank you all for being here today in what should have been sunny Southern California, but we're delighted to have you here. I am the dean of the school with that funny name, the School of Social Ecology. Even people who graduated from UC Irvine aren't able to often to explain what the School of Social Ecology is. So let me give you the quick understanding. We are a school of essentially social policy and community engagement. We don't just study societal problems, we try to solve them. And one way to understand my school is to understand our undergraduate student body. Half of our students are first-generation college attendees. In this in my school. We have 3,000 students, 2,000 of them are undergraduates. Half of them are Latino. So this is a wonderfully unusual school. And what we are really focused on is engaging with the community, with business leaders, with community leaders, with policymakers, with practitioners. Because if all we're doing is doing teaching and research that ends up in books, it's good, but it's not reaching our full commitment as a public institution in the state of California and with our student body. So when we think about partnerships, we're thinking about with individuals, we're thinking about with community groups, we're thinking with political groups, we're thinking about all kinds of business groups as well. And when I got here, we decided to restart something that we had in the school about 20 years ago, which is the UCI OC poll, which regularly goes into the community and tries to understand what people think about big ticket problems facing the 6th largest county in America. But the thing that also makes it fun is we are also able to track social changes and political changes that are going on in this county, because we are one of only 3 of the largest counties in America that are truly purple. And one of the groups that makes this county that way is the Latino community in Orange County. So one of our priorities with the poll and with some of our other activities is to be tracking where the Latino community and its communities, of course, but where they are moving left to right, up to down, and the like. And we've been able to partner with a number of groups in that. So we had a podcast this summer called Red County, Blue County, Orange County. You know your red, yeah, okay, you know your Dr. Seuss. All right, we were on brand. All right, I'm glad to hear that. So we had this podcast that was tracing the history of Orange County from this bright red county of the 80s to this truly purple county now. We were also able to sponsor book talks. So if any of you know the name Mike Madrid is the author of the book, The Latino Century. Well, with collaborating with the UCI-OC Alliance, we had Mike on campus, and we also sponsored a talk by Mike in Santa Ana, so that we took the university into the community and had him talk there. And then, as I said, we are continuing the poll, and we are also partnering with the Hispanic Chamber on some of the poll. As we follow what's going on with the Latino community, I'll give you one little hint, because we'll have a release on this in another several weeks. What we saw in the most recent election here in Orange County is the Latino community moved away from being left. But they're not going right. They're going unaffiliated here. They are disillusioned with government and the political parties, and so we're seeing them go unaffiliated. And that is going to be fascinating to follow. All right, I know I've taken more than my fair share of time, but again, welcome everybody to UCI.
Andy Lopez, share a little bit.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here in conversation. One, I have some kind of partnership with my colleague deans here on the panel, so working in partnership and collaboration is one of the things that brought me here to UCI. I have 30 years of my life in the UC system, coming to work in a collaborative environment at an HSI. Very important, I represent the master plan in California, from community college transfer student to the Cal State to the UC. So I'm also an alum. I'm a dean who's a long-standing UC faculty member, as well as a UC alum, and somebody who was born and raised in California. And I would not be here. I left home at 15. There's a whole other story to tell. But I would not be here if it wasn't for 2 things. If it wasn't for the path into the UC for higher education, and if it wasn't for the arts, because I grew up in a time in California where there were ample free public arts, and no matter what kind of chaos was going on in our lives, we had the arts to really show us what was possible. And with the public arts, the access and engagement part, that included many students from the universities going into the community. So that's really cooked into my DNA, thinking about the arts is an incredibly important conduit for being able to share research across the university, really make it active and captivate communities, have that emotional connectivity to engage with what's happening on campus, to message it, and as well as the conduit into our communities and to represent in partnerships that the arts are a real pathway into the university and plant those seeds early on, as well as bring the community onto campus and see what we're doing. And then the power of the arts to California's economy. The arts are a really important part of the driver of California's economy. The arts, I think, are more important now than ever. We think about AI, think about the films that you see, television, the stories that you're absorbing in all kinds of ways, TikTok, to mention just one, the online content. What does it mean when we're not at the table and part of the drivers of making that, right? Not only the content, but also the technology part of it, right? And on the business sector side of it, as well as thinking about the role of the arts in solving social problems and just the joy of the arts as they're in their own right. So those are things that really drive the work that I do in thinking about the arts. We've expanded access and engagement. Really part of my coming here was to build out access and engagement with the vision of the school, having some kind of pathway and partnership with every arts organization in Orange County, as well as industry partnerships to do what I call creative wayfinding for our students and their families to really see they're coming to UCI, to a school of the arts. Not only do they have a conduit and connection with UCI as a global university and the connection of the arts with both of the schools of my colleagues as well as the School of Medicine. We have different partnerships there that I'll talk about, but also that there's paid internships for every student to go into the community, whether that's from Segerstrom, where they're learning from a world-class, one of the nation's most important arts organizations, to have a paid internship to learn and see the possibilities and the power of the arts in our community and in the field, or to have a paid internship at an organization like Latina Breath of Fire Theater Ensemble, where they see the power of the arts for grassroots serving of our community, and to really learn from the incredible organizers of that organization in Santa Ana. Those are to give you a sense a little bit about how we're thinking about partnerships, how we're building those. When in the second part of our sharing, we have videos, and I'll talk a little more about some of the specific partnerships that we have, but that's to give you a sense of the vision of how important that is. I think the arts often, building those, what I call those pipelines and pathways, it's really important to that creative wayfinding so students and their families see that I meet so many people who say, my child is in STEM, but what they really love is arts. Or I have one child that's set, really they want to go directly into the arts, and we want families to really understand that there is a conduit to very important and meaningful careers, whether that's on Broadway. We have a New York Satellite Theater program where students are on the ground in New York for 4 weeks studying with leaders in the industry, taking master classes, really learning about, is that a pathway for their talent, or how they're learning about other possibilities through the internship. So that creative wayfinding for their students and their families is really key so that we can get over this anxiety that the arts are not a viable pathway from college into other industries.
Thank you. And I wanted to give everybody a chance to share too. There's a lot of partnerships already happening, but we wanted to just briefly hear if there's something else, a new partnership with our community in particular that is either planned or you're just even dreaming about. And while you think about that, I do want to share that I want to make a tie with partnerships with the earlier conversation about the OC Alliance. So one of the things we're trying to do with the OC Alliance is take this absolute powerhouse of heavy hitters, CEOs from some of the major industries in this region who are Latinx that our students don't even know are in these positions of power, and have them not just supporting our students, but also start to be engaging and influencing the leadership of the school by participating in dean's councils, for example. And these are examples of deans who have really jumped on that opportunity and really utilized and engaged the Alliance members, drawn them in, and not only to be part of these councils and different kinds of advisory groups, but also to invite, to open up the university so that it's a place where people feel welcomed and invited. And so when I go to different events for all three of these deans that they have, there's always a smattering of Alliance members. Even though there's only 50 of them, at major events, they are there. They're starting to feel that they are a part of this university and that their expertise and participation is valued. And then for our students to see that and see the kind of the breakdown of the boundaries between the community and the university is just something really powerful. So I just have to acknowledge that. But is there something that you want to share that is your dream or a plan that you want to do? And this is just to anyone. And
All right, this literally was yesterday. I'm not making this up. So I was up in Los Angeles yesterday, meeting with Raphael Augustine. If that name means anything to you, he's the author of the book Illegally Yours. If any of you are UCLA alums, he's one of yours. He was the founding CEO of the Latino Film Institute, writer on Jane the Virgin, and is now doing the writing the movie script for the movie on the founder of Homeboys Industries. He's also a resident of Altadena. And as you all know, Altadena has been historically a Latino and African American community that has just been absolutely devastated by the wildfires. And he has been trying to figure out some way to memorialize the stories of the residents of Altadena so that whatever the future brings, no one loses the history of what happened there. And so here's the idea we're playing with. And you are literally the first public audience that's heard me say anything about this. So here's the idea. We would use students to come up and meet the members of the community and help them, that the students would interview the members of the community. At first it would be in person, but we would also use Zoom, which has the technology of transcription software and then an AI summary at the end. We could then use those summaries in conjunction with real editors to be able to put these together, and Raphael sits on the board of Mother Jones magazine, which wants to publish all of these. The students would get course credit for this, and because we believe in paying people for their time, we would also give gift cards to, and probably Visa gift cards, to the members of Altadena who would participate in this, so they would at least get some sort of support during this time. So they would get support, our students would get this really interesting learning experience. There would be a product that would help memorialize the history of Altadena, and Mother Jones would publish this. So these are the kinds of things we think about, at least in school social ecology.
just stay tuned.
Well, I can give an example of something we've been talking about and working on. I definitely think it's still in the dream phase, but I think it's actually a very realizable dream. So for the last several years, we've been involved with the Latitude Conference. I don't know if many of you are familiar with it, but it's a phenomenal gathering of business professionals from across the country. It's supported largely by NARA, the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, which I believe might be the largest Hispanic professional association in the country. They're based down in San Diego, and just to give a sense of just how wonderful they are, for the last 2 years, they've provided funding for several of our students to actually attend the conference at no cost, travel, everything. We have a few people in the room that actually took advantage of that, and they can tell you about just how fabulous that event was. That conversation has continued because they're very serious about understanding the wealth generation in the community. And with extrapolating from that, what does that mean for the broader economy of the United States? So we've started a process where I'm working with them on a book around economic development and wealth generation within the Latinx community But what I would envision this doing is trying to tap into more resources that we have in the school. And my big dream around this is how can we work through that association and others to think about how we're enhancing the ability of Latinx businesses to leverage new technologies. Because we want to make sure that those organizations are not just utilizing technology, which is very important, things like artificial intelligence, virtual reality, how is that becoming part of the repertoire, but we also want to see more technology-based firms that are led by those organizations. We need more unicorns coming from the Latinx community. And that is a sector that has generated a lot of extraordinarily successful firms, generated tremendous service quality, but also a lot of wealth generation. And we have an executive education development wing within our business school where we think we can provide that type of service. We do this with other firms all around the world, but I would love to see a very focused activity where we can do that within this particular community.
I want to share about a partnership project we have in motion, which is with the Cesar Chavez Foundation. And we, one of our theater faculty, Juliet Carrillo, who's one of the nation's leading directors of Latinx theater making, and she's a playwright and a director. She is working with the Chavez Foundation and with our students to write a play to commemorate the 100-year anniversary of Cesar Chavez's life and impact. And the play is being written to be able to tour nationally to high schools, as well as to really think about it as a blueprint to making other content, right? Whether that's going into film or short form storytelling content to go in different modalities that say people in high schools or other colleges or the community would pick up and work from. And that partnership evolved from our student-led theater company, Brown Bag Theater, where students put on work about and the history of Latino theater making practices, some of our noted playwrights, and Diane Rodriguez, who's a real legend in Latino theater. She was one of the founding members with El Teatro Campesino, and as a young college-age student, started working for the UFW, putting the art-making practices to bring a spotlight to social movement, but also creating a space for college students to be able to have different opportunities and connect with people all over the nation through that work. So it's in the spirit of that. Members of the Chavez Foundation happened to come and be here in Irvine and see this play. They were so excited to see the work our students are being done, but also see the commitments of Irvine and our school. Our theater department has 4 Latinx theater artists, which is, I think that's unprecedented. Can't think of another drama department across the United States that has that they can put a spotlight on, as well as the history of our students and community. So it was just an organic partnership, and that's why I think the work that we do in community engagement is so critical, because you just don't know what kind of opportunities will evolve. But that's a recent opportunity I want to bring a spotlight to. And it also led to, because of the associations and the connectedness with the Chavez Foundation, led to our having a screening this past fall of Song for Caesar, and bringing that, and it was in the Irvine Barclay Theater. It was standing room only. It was just packed with the community, and just a really, again, that's leading to other opportunities. So just thinking about the power of our storytelling, those partnerships I think are really important. That's a recent one that I'm really excited about.
Well, it's an exciting time. So we're going to switch a little bit, and we're going to give each dean an opportunity to share a little bit, and then to share a video clip. I want to start with Dean Williamson and ask a question about a book you recently edited that I have finally dug into over the break. And I wish we had brought it here. We would have been maybe at a future club meeting to give out, because it's a fantastic book. It covers a lot of really timely, urgent topics such as burnout and mental health, working in a hybrid environment, unions, job inequalities among marginalized groups. And I wanted to ask your thoughts on how partnerships ties into this new model and the challenges of work today.
So the book is it's called The Conversational Work, and this is something, basically it's around the future of work. So how is working, the way we think about work, the role of work in our society, how has it evolved? And I was interested in doing this because really in the last 5 or 6 years, we've seen some changes that are just things we never would have comprehended at a pace that we never would have thought about. But if I think about one key theme about that, that comes out of it is, we as a country, we as an economy, we're really struggling to get talented people. Like, we don't have enough people because we're aging. The people we have, we don't have the right necessary skill sets. And one of the big opportunities that's missed in the United States is you have many communities that are simply not receiving the training or the exposure to go into the industries and sectors that are driving growth. And one of the perfect examples is here in California. So here we have this phenomenal economy that is heavily influenced by innovation and technology. Just to give you a sense, California generated last year more patents than any other state in the United States, which is very impressive. What's more impressive is California generated more patents than the next 6 states combined. So when people talk about the tech sector in California and how important it is, it's almost impossible to overstate its importance. This is the place where it happens, and it's not just Silicon Valley. Certainly what's happening down here in the southern part of the state, Silicon Beach, is real. It's having a huge impact, and that's amazing. And we all benefit from that because it raises the quality of life that we all experience here in the state. But when you talk to the industry, what they'll tell you is they're very concerned about, will they have the talent within the state to continue to drive that industry? So that's a very clear threat to all of us. And one of the things that we notice is that that's one of those sectors that has huge underrepresentation for certain groups. So particularly Black and Latino, just, you don't see it, right? So the numbers are quite phenomenal. 51% of all the people in California that are under the age of 24 identify as Latino. 51%. Like, less than 13% of all the people that work in the technology sector in California identify as Black or Latino. So you have this huge gap, right? And you go, wait, what would happen if we were actually able to get the young people, the people who are actually young in California, to be involved more in this sector? How would that change our outcome? And that's actually something that's very important for the industry. And obviously something I think as an educator we can play a role in. So that's a long-winded setup we wanted to try to solve that. We wanted to create a diverse, reliable, skilled pool of talent for certainly Southern California, if not California. And we thought that the way to do that was to begin to get more representation from communities that are currently not participating in what is this amazing economic engine of our state, the tech sector. And when I arrived here, I got the demand from the CEOs of all the companies saying, give us more talent. And then I thought, well, okay, where's the problem? Where's the supply problem? And I actually went back and started to go visit grammar schools and high schools. I'm not from here. It was a long time since I went to high school, and I was in Chicago, so I realized I know nothing about what the high school life in Southern California is going to be. And I would go to schools, they'd have classes like programming or other cybersecurity, and I just noticed a trend where certain groups never took those classes. You just walk in a room, and I'm like, And then I walk in another room, and I go, this room looks different. Why is that? Why would a 15-year-old kid decide not to take a cybersecurity class? I mean, they're 15, they have no idea what they're doing. They're just taking classes. So we thought, even if we did a great job as a university, they're never going to get to us. So we decided to try something different and work with high schools to create what we call our Future Leaders Initiative, which is a program designed to encourage students to pursue business careers in technology. And the idea being that this would perhaps generate a pipeline of talent that would begin to meet the need that we have for industry. So that's the setup for the video that we're going to show, which kind of gives a little bit of overview. our premise is simple. The program is built around 3 ideas: awareness, access, and ambition. First and foremost, how can we get them to understand that their future will be shaped by things like fintech, augmented reality, virtual reality, machine learning, artificial intelligence? We want to provide them with role models, examples, physical things they can touch, people they can talk to that have had tremendous success in these spaces to normalize it for them. But equally important is that the individuals that they see, the role models they see, they can relate to. They come from their communities, they come from their cultures. They can understand the experiences that these students are going through. It's not just about understanding this as an opportunity. See what success looks like. And then let's set up a plan for you about the steps you can take, not just to graduate from high school, not just to go to college, but over the next 10 years of your life. You know, if you've seen this finished product, this fantastic entrepreneur, this fantastic business leader, let's go back and say they were sitting in your seat today. And let's think about what are the steps we're gonna work with you to get you to that point and beyond. You give them the means by which they can unleash the potential they have inside themselves. And that's the future leaders we're trying to create. So what was cool about this program is, and this is really, bringing it back to partnership. So, I kind of went around, we did this due diligence, and we figured we can maybe do something here. But this is, we've never done this before. We didn't have any money, and, it was just an idea. So I happened to meet one of the council members from Santa Ana, who, for whatever reason, invited me to come to her office. I pitched this idea. She said, I want you to meet the mayor. Went to go meet the mayor. The mayor had the superintendent for the Santa Ana schools there, as well as the leader for Santa Ana College. And he kind of suggested to them they should do something with us, as only a mayor can do. And they were like, yeah, we're game for that. And so we partnered with Santa Ana High School System and Santa Ana College our first year to get students to be a participant, because I thought, I can create this, but I don't know how to get the kids. I gotta get the parents to say the kids are gonna come in the summer, and it's like all too complicated. But that's of course what the high schools are able to do. So that first year we had 40 kids. And we were like, wow, 40 kids showed up. We literally had no idea when the first day started, if anybody's gonna show up. This, second year, somehow Anaheim found out about it. And they said, hey, we'd love for our kids to get involved. So they got a bus and sent the kids down. So now we had 100 kids. And then the third year, we've never advertised for this program. I mean, there's videos on YouTube somewhere, but it's not optimized to pop up on your Google search. And we had over 150 kids from 62 high schools between San Diego and LA. And it's really been those partnerships between government, higher education, and then how are we paying for it? Well, philanthropic community stepped up big to support this. Several companies, you saw clips of different companies that have hosted our students as part of this process. And so it really it's a great example of identifying a problem that collectively impacts all of us. None of us have the ability to solve it by ourselves, but bringing together those resources allows us to create an innovation that I think has lasting potential. And I'm pretty ambitious about this. My goal when we started was 3,000 kids in 10 years. So when we did 40, everybody was like, that's a long way from 3,000. But I said, give it time, and so I see this growing quite rapidly over the next several years.
Fantastic, thank you so much. So next we're going to go to Dean Lopez. So the Claire Trevor School of the Arts hosts over 200 performances and exhibitions, engaging more than 50,000 visitors annually. And she and I have already been in conversation about how we can work to make sure that our community, our Latinx community in Orange County in particular, they see these exhibitions and performances as open to them. So many of them being free and low cost. We want to make sure that we can increase exposure to the arts for the families and communities in our region. And the school's community partnerships and industry collaborations already include Santa Ana High School, the Cesar Chavez Foundation, and Pacific Symphony. So how do you see these partnerships as advancing your mission to prioritize access and inclusion and serve our diverse population of the state of California while preparing students for leadership roles?
Thank you for putting a spotlight on that. And you can also see the specifics from my colleague deans, how inspiring that is, because that connection with the community really is thinking about how we're.
Oh, sorry, my comms director is like, lift the mic, sorry. I'm just so inspired because you can see how that connection with the community, it's really about not only thinking about touching, using the work to engage in the here and now, it's seeding for the future to make sure we have future leaders and that we're also being very agile and relevant in the current moment to have our communities understand from arts and business to engagement with social matters, having them understand what it is that they can do in the here and now through connecting with the work, preparing to be future leaders through the business or preparing with the arts. The video clip that you'll see, it's a slide presentation that gives you sense of many of our partnerships, but I'll show you just in the moment, taking you in the room of a lot of the production and events. It'll give you a kind of snapshot about the level of art that you see produced in the school, and it names some of the specific partnerships. We have a campaign underway right now called Arts and, it's an initiative, and that is so that our students understand they can come and major in arts and business. We have an arts and management certificate with Merage. We have other center connectedness with School of Social Ecology, as well as other schools and colleges here at UCI. One of them is School of Medicine. You'll see a picture of a Strokestra project we did, which was a partnership between the School of Medicine and the Philharmonic of Orange County and the Philharmonic of the UK. And it had our music students learning the Strokestra methodology of how do you use musicianship and musicology for stroke patients and their caregivers to heal faster. And then we partnered with School of Medicine so clinicians could actually study that methodology. So you'll see some of those, but that Arts and Camp initiative is really putting a focus on the role of the arts with every school here on campus, but also with our community and industry partnerships. And that initiative is to have our students understand, students in the community, to understand that they can come and study music and engineering, for example. You'll see a bit of that. And also for our students here, really to imagine the edge that this gives to STEM students who've had a lifelong engagement with arts in some way, to know when they come to UCI, they can come and engage the level of the events that we have at the school through our dance, our drama, our arts exhibitions, and our musical performances, and what that does when the campus is really coming together through the arts, as well as being able to study the arts in relationship with other subjects. So that, you'll see that in the video. The access and engagement partnerships that were mentioned is one, our teaching artistry program. Segerstrom Center for the Arts places the nation's largest number of teaching artists, not just locally, but nationally. And a teaching artist is an artist who has pedagogy training and goes into healthcare facilities or theaters or high schools, and they're really trained to be able to show how the arts can be put to a specific lesson plan, right? So this is wonderful for the artists because they can go out into paid teaching positions, teaching the arts in addition to really pushing forward their careers. And then we have a side-by-side program with the Pacific Symphony where our students have the opportunity to go on the Pacific Symphony, which is like putting the students behind the wheel of a Ferrari. You know, to imagine if you're a musician on the stage there and they get to rehearse and play side by side with the professional musicians at the symphony as part of their experience coming into the school. And then our Creative Connections, that's one of our programs where through the K through 12 high schools in Orange County, we're serving over 1,500 students in this K through 12 high schools. Our students have the opportunity to be interns in that arena to serve the community. So those are just a couple of things that you saw. And we hope that you got a sense of the level of the production values and the work that we do. In the lobby, we have our Connections magazine, but there's also a little card that has a QR code on the back. Sorry, of course it's buried in here. But the Creative Connections, this gives you a sense of the stories of our alumni, our faculty, our students, and our community partners, so please pick this up. It's also online. And then there's a little card there on the back. It has a QR code. It'll take you to our entire season. And please look at the events that you're interested in. And Stephanie mentioned I'm big on having events with the dean, but also events with our community before we go into the events. We have our Trevor Society, and that's a group in which people belong to the society and they get together to go to events and support the school. So if you're interested in that, follow the QR code and that'll tell you more.
Yes, if you're in LA or Orange County, please take a look at that and take advantage of the amazing performances that we hold here at UCI. So we're gonna round out with Dean Gould. You may or may not know that a student in social ecology has a requirement to conduct field study. And the School of Social Ecology has partnerships with over 200 different organizations to provide those opportunities for students to engage in that field study. And in fact, Dean Gould and I created, there was nothing in Latin America for students, so he and I created a field study opportunity for students in Mexico. Now we're on 3 years running that we're very proud of. But there's lots and lots of things locally as well. So how has you and your team cultivated such a broad coalition of partners, number one? And what do you see has been the fruit of students' engagement with the community? And then you can wrap it up by queuing up this newest community event that you have brought to the campus.
Yes. So I'd love to take credit for how we had 200 organizations involved. They were there when I got here 3 years ago.
And what?
But I'm going to give us all a little credit here. So we've added about 100 more since that time. Here's the notion of field study. We do this great job, we think, of teaching students how to think about the world, how to make change. We then ask them to go spend 100 hours in the community, one of the quarters that they are with us, working with a nonprofit, a government agency, a business, to test those theories, to see what happens when they're out there in reality. But they take a class at the same time, so we're not just sending them out there. They're processing it with a faculty member at the same time. And this isn't a traditional internship because they're doing a real substantive project. It's not answering phones, not that anyone uses phones anymore. But they're out there doing a really substantive project and they come back and they're processing it. Because of who our students are and where they're from, they want to do these projects largely in communities either that they've come from, Anaheim, Santa Ana, Orange, or communities that remind them of communities from where they've come. And what it means is they're out there making change in the communities through our courses. And it's just the most remarkable thing to see. And as Stephanie said, we've been able to extend this into Mexico, and with the Alliance's help, we may be able to continue that. But here's the thing we've realized that we needed to add to this. So let me ask this, are any of you first in your family to go to college? Okay, so let me ask you this. How many of you, by a show of hands, when you got to a UC, felt like you understood all the soft knowledge of a professional career and what a university was like? Okay, you've just proven, I mean, you're proving my point. I think I'm proving your point, really. So what we have realized is we do this great job of bringing students here who wouldn't otherwise have gotten a UC education. We do a remarkable job, I think, across this university of educating them. What we need to do a better job on is helping them with the soft skills, the soft knowledge. And so we have started, in conjunction with field studies, something we're calling a pipeline project, where we're trying to connect the students with mentors, where we're trying to connect them with additional programming, whether it's financial literacy, networking, how to do an informational interview, what a resume is, heck, what that second fork is on the left at a business lunch. And it's proving to be both incredibly difficult and incredibly gratifying. Difficult in terms of finding the money. You would think this would be the easiest thing in the world to fund, and it turns out that it's one of the most difficult things to fund. Because one of the things that we're adding to this is we're trying to find money for the students to be able to do the unpaid internship. Because we all talk about the internships. And it's one thing to say, oh, you have the opportunity to go do an internship. It's a wholly different story if you are working to afford college, and from some of my students, working to help their parents pay for things at home while being students here. And so I'm trying to find essentially $3,000 a student. That's 500, you do the math, 500 students a year times $3,000 to be able to provide them the ability to do the unpaid internship in conjunction with Pipeline, which is part of the field study program. So that's the thing that we're really working on, and we're going to keep at this until we get it done. But let me close with something where we all on this stage have had a part in accomplishing something that's really just a whole lot of fun and brings people together. So this university will turn 60 years old this year. I am 1 year older than this university. So what does that tell you? For years, the largest non-white population at this university were Asian American students. Today, by far, it's our Latino student population. And for many years, we have honored and celebrated our Asian American population here with the Lunar New Year celebration, which we just had last week. It was just a wonderful event. And we haven't necessarily had something campus-wide that did the same sort of thing to honor our Latino students, connect us with the community, honor the Latino community in the area. And again, this is something I can take zero credit for, except to say that I said yes when Mimiko Cruz, who you actually all probably met earlier, who's our director of communications, came up with the idea, why don't we start something similar for Dia de los Muertos? Why don't we do something big? And if you know Mimi, or if you've talked to her at all, you'll know that if Mimi has an idea, it'll be big immediately. So the School of Social Ecology was basically the test case for this, the first year. We thought we'd do a nice job, maybe have 200 students come to this. And I should say, you'll see the video in a moment. We partnered with the Anaheim School District. They brought the most adorable children to campus to play music and dance. We had student groups. We had the Merage Divas. It was going to be what we thought was going to be a great 200-person event. 1,000 people showed up. That was in the first year, 1,000 people. And thank goodness, we were fortunate to have partners then for the second year, and it's really become a campus-wide initiative. All the deans you see on the stage have been instrumental. Tiffany's students were kind of the hit of that. Well, the hit of the show were the little kids. I mean, how can you compete with that? But once you do that, the next hit were Tiffany's students, who were just remarkable. I see at least 3 or 4 people here who were really wonderful staff members and partners in this. And can you raise your hands? Come on, Teresa. Over. And we also have Latinx Resource Center too. That was a partner. Yeah, so we have a number of people to thank for this. We're going to show the video here in a moment. I will have nothing else to say after that, except this was great. Stuck with me was the students who came up to us afterwards and said what really was the most fun about this was that the university was recognizing our heritage and giving us a chance to celebrate. And that and the connection with the community, we'll do it again and again and again as long as we have people with energy to put this together. But this is something, again, that all of us were involved in.
I think we should end on that high note. We work hard, but we play hard. And I will just say, walking away, I missed the first event. I was in Mexico at the time, but I stayed here for the second one. I was at this year's, and just walking away from that event as someone who was here in the 90s as a student, as a graduate student, walking away from that event was just very emotional for me to see not just the students having an amazing time, but also, and the community members feeling so part of it, but also just to see the climate of the campus and what that meant for students to be feeling so free and so connected to every part of themselves, right, in their academic home as well. So I want to thank you, and thank you all for your attention. It's been a great panel.
I want to put a spotlight on Dr. Reyes Tuccio, and because she really illustrates the power of leadership. I know alumni Mark Grossman shared earlier about what happens when you don't have the power of leadership in place, but really to thank you so much, and to thank all of you in the room and my colleagues so much, and the campus for its emphasis on leadership, because it really has a huge impact. So thank all of you. Thank you, Stephanie.